Hi, friends. Give a few seconds for this to actually populate somewhere instead of just telling me I'm live, but there we go. Now it's officially live. So as you can tell, I feel like this room behind me is the ever-changing magic room. Like every time I go live, there's something new here. So now we have a bed that it's a day bed that we were putting together. So that's happening. I need to paint it and project with it a little bit, but that's what's over here. For guests, once we have the baby. Hi, everyone. Please say hi as you are hopping on. I know that it's been a minute since I've done a live video. I have been trying to produce videos and edit them when I have the energy and the time. And coming live has been a little bit more difficult since I try to prioritize my morning hours for clients and one-on-one stuff. Excuse me. So, hey, I wanted to have this conversation because I just wrote a post inside of my fitness community, the Warrior Wellness Studio. I've been noticeably quiet in the bigger group spaces. I've still been having one-on-one conversations and, answering customer team questions, things of that nature. But when it comes to being in big groups, I've sort of retreated and wanted to hide a lot. And but up until recently, I didn't really feel like I had the desire or the energy to be in group spaces like that. So I wrote a post in there this morning talking about my mental health journey with this pregnancy, which has actually been extremely difficult. And it's interesting to note that when people see pictures of me, like pictures that I share of my bump updates, I always get the feedback that I look really healthy, which is really interesting because I wouldn't disagree with that. I think I agree with that, but I think the reason I agree with that so much is because I've put such an emphasis on my mental health during this pregnancy versus just physical health. And I think it reflects when you really care for your mental health. I think it shows up in the way that your body looks and the way that you look. But not because that was the intention, just because that was the side effect of it. One of the things I wrote in that post that I shared in that group was these feelings of, I wish I had had a different pregnancy experience, which sounds ungrateful to begin with because I'm having a pregnancy experience and I'm grateful for that. And it's a healthy one. But I had all these ideas of how this was going to go for me, especially really dedicating myself a lot to fitness and nutritional awareness over the past 5 years and wanting to have a really fit pregnancy and wanting to enjoy that and be a model for that. And it just didn't work out that way for me. I instead got a pregnancy that demanded that I slow down to the point where some days I feel like I'm doing nothing. And that's something I've never done. I've never done nothing. I've never sat still for a period of time and just stared at a wall or slept, or I've never done that. That's just really out of my comfort zone, really out of the way that my life has run up until this point. So with the exhaustion that came with this pregnancy and the sickness, which I didn't have with my first, and then the depression that came with the pregnancy, which I also didn't have with my first, it quickly became apparent to me that I was going to have to honor the slowing down, or else I was going to make myself worse. So that's where I've been for the past 2 trimesters, has been unplugging and slowing down massively because it felt almost like a desperate need to do that. And at the same time, dealing with the mental chatter of, you're disappearing from the groups that you support and you're no longer as active and you're no longer as visible. And I think as an entrepreneur, especially in an online space, there's this pressure to show up a certain way and a certain amount of times and to be a certain person and to carry on this, continuous flow of energy for the sake of your business. And I see that a lot. And I think that that's one of the things that social media has done, has created a demand for our energy, even when it's hurting us, even when it's drawing from us to the point where it's not healthy and we don't feel good about doing it. So in a sense, me pulling away and going into hibernation felt like a rebellious act against this new way of being in the online space as a leader, as an entrepreneur. It felt like going against a lot of what I was taught or told or mentored on, and the rebel in me was quite pleased by that decision to do that. But it also was really telling to me how much my nervous system needed to relax and needed to unwind in order to ever even step back into a space where I could help people. And I don't know, there's a lot of conversation about how as women we're ingrained with this idea of just like giving and serving. And for me, that's definitely been true. But because I like to serve, I like to be of service. I like to show up for other people. I like to see them win. I like to help them change their life and grow and be better people. That to me is so fulfilling. So I often do that almost to my expense, where I wear myself out in the effort of doing that. And I don't slow down enough to really pay attention to the fact that, wait a second, girl, like, your nervous system is shot. Maybe you should rest. So the gift of not getting it right for me, and by right I mean the way that I thought should be for this pregnancy, has been the extremely deep awareness that mental health is not just small rituals that we do for ourselves some days to make sure that we relax or feel taken care of. It's a whole way of organizing your life so that you feel honored all of the time, not just some of the time. It's literally a reorganization of the way that we show up in the world. And from that reorganization, we make all of our decisions. It affects how much we work, where we work, who we work with, how we show up, if we show up. All of those things are touched by this reorganization, this emphasis on mental health and mental well-being. Whereas I think the way that we've been approaching mental health has been like, well, here's our life and mental health is just like a puzzle and we try to fit it in. I think it's actually the opposite of that. I think our mental health is it. And then we need to organize our world really around that to whatever extent fits who we are. And I think if more of us did that, then our quality of life and the way that we interact with each other, with ourselves, with everything in our space would be really dramatically different. And so I don't feel like I got it right with this pregnancy. I don't feel like I was able to show up and, keep running these awesome groups that were always full of energy and full of progress and, or I was able to really do as many readings and as many, as I would like to. I usually put a limit, like I'm taking maybe like 4 chart readings a month, 1 to 2 4-week clients a month. It's very limited at the time because my bandwidth is just where it is, right? And so I think the more that we honor that and pay attention to that and we organize a life around that, the happier we are in general, whether things go our way or not. And that's something that I've discovered. It's like, even though I've had a lot of adversity in this period, different things, some related, some unrelated, my general happiness quotient has been higher in a lot of ways. And my anxiety has been lower in a lot of ways because I've slowed down enough to make the status of my mental health significant. So instead of just trying to handle all of this pressure that's mounting at the same time and grappling with that, I'm just slow and I'm addressing each thing as it shows up with that kind of mental clarity, which I think is really important. And of course, you know, I wouldn't be where I am right now. I wouldn't be able to give myself that time or that space if I hadn't built a foundation financially to support me for the past 5 years. So I'm so grateful that I created a business that gives passive income, because that has really helped me to be able to slow down more and not fear that I won't be able to meet financial obligations. This is part of the reasons why I talk about multiple streams of income all of the time, because it matters. When you don't have that and you feel super strapped, you feel like you have to give up your mental health and your mental well-being to meet these financial obligations. And it's a really difficult place to be. It's a rock and a hard place. So I have learned that the more passive income I have created for myself, the more space it gives me to be, to heal, to process. So important. I cannot stress that enough. So important. I remember being in a position where I didn't have that, where it's like I had to show up, I had to take the clients, I had to do the things because I didn't have any backup. And it felt so suffocating. And I think it added to my issues, which have compounded over time. But now, knowing what I know, I would recommend to every single person that I know that they create for themselves that kind of security and a net that can help them when things are super rough and they just need to attend to themselves first and foremost. So I really don't know what came onto me to come live and talk about this, but it felt really important. I've had a lot of kind of background conversations with people who have checked in on me, which is really sweet. And I'm really grateful for that. And I've shared some of this journey through my posts and some of the things that I'm experiencing, but I haven't really gone live to talk about it. I didn't really keep up with bump dates, you know, as they were happening. No bandwidth again. And so I'm learning that, again, the gift of not getting it right, the right that I wanted to get it, was actually that I learned a whole new level of depth to inner peace and to what really matters. Parenting, I have enjoyed parenting so much more because I'm not as stressed. So I'm, you know, more present, more playful, more available to my son. My partnership has improved. My marriage has improved. Every facet of my life is better because I've stopped doing so much. And even though I'm still dealing with the feelings of guilt because I've stopped doing a lot of the leadership things that I value, I think that it's really made a big difference in bringing the rest of my life into balance. I think I was probably living way out of balance for a long time. So for any of you who are watching this and who are struggling, who are feeling out of balance, who don't know what to do, feel stuck, listen to these words and really take them in on yourself. And if you haven't created that net to support you, create it and nurture it. And if you need that space, honor that and discover the depths of meaning for yourself and of peace for yourself. And then when you return into a more public sphere, you'll be different by default because you will bring with you that depth and that awareness that is so necessary. And if you're an online entrepreneur and you feel that pressure to be constantly on and to be constantly present, it's imaginary. It's an imaginary pressure. Like, that doesn't exist. It's just something that we are told that exists. It's like this weird enigma that sort of wraps up our career and makes us feel like we have to, you know, overextend ourselves all the time. No, we don't. No, we don't. And actually, here is where human design has made a really big difference and why I went back to it more in depth during this period, because it has really taught me that how we operate in the world is very different person to person, and that energy is really important to mind. And I just actually shared a new blog that I wrote, a video I made for strategy and human design. And that is a very important video to understand how we play the game of life as different aura types, different design types. So watch that so that you can learn something brand new about you. Anyways, if you have any questions or comments watching this, please let me know. You're always welcome to message me. I don't have Facebook on my phone, but I do sit at my computer for a period of time every day, and I will answer you. And I hope that you enjoy the new blog, and I hope that you are taking care of yourselves as best you are able to, and remembering that you were your first love, your first everything when you came here. So don't make that secondary, because everything else that you think is before you will suffer as a result of that. Take it from someone who's known that now firsthand. All right, my loves, be well till we meet again.